when we think about equality, it's like half and half, right? Men 50, women 50. But in our world, men, I do not have the number for us, obviously, which I think that's when Liza come in, Dance Data Project.
Yes, we'll link that.
Yeah, I mean, it's when, if we only have 10% of the working choreographers are men, then 90%, or maybe there's some like non-gender bias, right? So maybe say 10 and 80. Then shouldn't be every festival represent this number? Shouldn't every company's commission represent this number? Then we are equal. And of course, equal pay, right? Like the 68 cents to $1. That was 2016 or something like that. That Liza,
Also link.
Exactly. So like I'm like, for me, that's how to define.
Knobloch's Dance presents Dance Behind the Screen, process production and social media. Hey knowers, welcome to our podcast. We are Knobloch's Dance, a social media-based company. We strive to say no to the box. We connect interdisciplinary art, technology, and artists to re-envision the process of art making and sharing.
Hello everyone, this is Martheya.
And Azaria.
And we're here on Dance Behind the Screen podcast. And right now we're actually in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at the Women in Dance Leadership Conference.
We're super excited to be here. Not only are we attending the conference, but we get the opportunity to present our co-choreographed work called Censorship.
And before we get into our interview, I want to tell you a little bit more about the Women in Dance Conference. So they have the mission to investigate, explore, and reflect on women's leadership by representing innovative and multicultural dance work to celebrate, develop, and promote women's leadership in dance making, dance-related fields, and other male-dominated professions.
Sandra Parks received her BFA in dance from Tisch School of the Arts, New York University, and her MFA in choreography from Smith College, Massachusetts. Originally from Taiwan, Sandra danced as a soloist with Four Seasons Ballet and Wu Dance Company in Taipei. She toured nationally and internationally with a Broadway production of The King and I. While directing her own production, she danced and choreographed over 80 live concerts. After moving to Boston, she danced with many companies, including Bosoma Dance Company, Dance Collective, and Impulse Dance Company. Sandra has presented works at many venues, including Carnegie Recital Hall, Dixon Place, Manhattan Center in New York, among many others. She was also a member of faculties at Boston University, Bridgewater State College, Colleges of Fenway, Kennesaw State University, Regis College, Smith College, National Taiwan University of Arts, the head of dance program and assistant professor at Louisiana State University, and she's currently on faculty at Drexel University in Philadelphia, where we are today. In 2013, Sandra founded Women in Dance L.L.C. to celebrate and promote female leadership in dance, and she is the director of the international conference Women in Dance Leadership Conference.
We're so honored to be here at the conference and that Sandra took the time to meet with us and talk with us on her career path. But this Women in Dance Leadership Conference has been so full of all different avenues of dance, such as dance on film screenings, panel discussions, master workshops, paper presentations, selected choreographer concerts, and more. And again, we can't wait to interview and talk with Sandra more about cultivating such a wonderful space for women in dance leadership. Okay, so we're very excited. We have Sandra Parks here at the Women in Dance Conference. So to start us off, could you just briefly walk our audience through your career path?
Okay, so I started out like pretty much like many female dancers out there. Parents sent me to learn dance. I grew up in Taipei, Taiwan. So in Taiwan, we all start with Chinese dance as well as ballet. And then later down the road, my teacher decided to pull me out of the Chinese dance and only focus on ballet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to learn a very kind of a strict vocabulary. And then fast forward, I decided I want to be a professional dancer. So, very naive of me, at age of 18, I moved to New York City.
Wow.
And just say, I'm going to come and perform. I did perform professionally when I was really lucky. In high school, I got to perform with a professional ballet company in Taiwan. And so I went to New York. Didn't know. I was not allowed to work. Like, I didn't know. Like, nobody told me. Like, as a foreign student, you're not allowed to work. And so I was like, okay, what do I do then? And I figured out, if you go to college, then you can get in 1 year of working visa.
Mm-hmm.
So I started auditioning, and I was accepted by NYU Tisch School of the Arts Dance Department. And I went there and finished it, and really just awesome experience there. And while I was finishing out my college classes, I got accepted to be in the national tour of The King and I. Mm-hmm. And so very smoothly, and I was really glad. And again, I felt fortunate that, I went from college and then I went straight performing, and then came back to New York after the tour and just performed with different artists, actually pop artists from Asia. And then also work with some smaller choreographers, smaller groups in New York City. And then I decided to move to Boston because my husband boyfriend then, was teaching in Boston. So I said, you know what, this guy it might be the one. So so when I was in Boston, I got to teach for a nonprofit organization. Specifically, they do community engagement programs in inner city high schools or urban high schools, and all the way through from kindergarten to 12. And I think that's when I really started, I guess, realizing I actually do like teaching. I didn't think I would. I didn't think I would have the patience. I guess it's in my blood because both my parents are teachers.
Oh, really?
Not in dance, but so after that, I was like, okay, but I wanted to work with people who can actually discuss dance with me instead of me telling them what to do. So I said, again, I didn't know what to do. So I was like, so what do I do?
Right.
And the company I was dancing with at the time, the artistic director recommended me to try to apply for MFA. And I said, okay, but then where, And then she also recommended Smith College. Because one of her former dance company member was teaching there at the time. So I went, not knowing much. I did enough research to know the program, to know that it's a small program. And also, it's a full scholarship and fellowship program, which was really helpful. Because at the time, I got married to the guy.
To the boyfriend.
And we bought a condo in Boston. So it was nice that it was, paid for and everything. So I graduated from Smith, then just started teaching in Boston area. And it's a lot easier to do adjunct work in Boston because there's so many colleges and universities. But then we also had our daughter right after I graduated from Smith. So
that's a lot all at once.
Yeah, all at once. I found out I was pregnant a month before our thesis concert.
Oh my God.
Wow. And I was actually, if I was only choreographing, I think it was okay. But I was also performing in how it goes, right? You perform with each other. And I remember the piece, I had to walk on this platform that built into the audience in the angle. I think, and I didn't tell my husband. And I think when he came to see the show, he almost fell out of the chair because nobody knew I was pregnant. I didn't want to make people uncomfortable and then saying, oh, no, don't do this, So, but I knew my husband knew. So, anyway, so, I started adjunct teaching in Boston, and then later I got a full-time position at Kennesaw State University in Atlanta, and then I became the head of dance at Louisiana State University a couple years later. And I just decided to move back to New York City. I think it was easier for both of us to have a more thriving careers. And then after 2 years, I came to Drexel. I've been moving around a lot.
It's cool to get to hear your story.
You are listening to Knobbox Dance.
So we're curious. First of all, we are loving this conference so much.
Yes.
So thank you so much for putting this together. But we're curious, what made you want to create this?
Okay, so I can tell you exactly what sparked this, like, let's do it type of thing. But I do think this idea of promoting female leadership has been in my mind for a while. But the actual, like, if you want to ask, like, what, like, exact moment, when I moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I made a point of meeting it's a smaller town. So it sounds like, oh my God, you met all the dance company directors. They're not that many because it's a smaller town, but I did have the honor to meet all of them. And the theater directors, and basically anyone who's involved with dance or performance. And funny thing is, they're all female. And I was like, wow, this is unheard of. Like, as you know, New York City, Boston, and even if I reflect back my past, I did not get to work with any female choreographer until I was 25.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
My whole life, male choreographer. And so, yeah, I was really just touched by that. And I don't know, like, inspired by that. And I was like, what do I do to like kind of celebrate this really just amazing fact? So I was talking with a really dear friend of mine who's also now on the board of directors of Women in Dance. Her name is Renee Chatelaine. I was talking, and she also was the executive director of the theater in the professional theater in town.
Okay.
I was talking to her and I was like, these women in dance are amazing. And I was like, women in dance? Like, that's, you know, I wanted to, And at the same time, I also want to bring different work into the Baton Rouge community because I feel like it's kind of being kind of not neglected. Maybe so, but because like New Orleans is such a closer city and it's so much bigger. So most of the big companies go to New Orleans and not necessarily come to Baton Rouge. And I was just like, how can I help bring those, you know, work to Baton Rouge as well? So then I had this idea of I'm going to create this conference with only female choreographers.
So this is in 2015.
This was 2013 when I had the idea.
Okay. So trying to get the time.
Yeah, and it took me obviously 2 years to make it happen, you know. So that's why the first one is in Baton Rouge. Because people are like, why would you do it in Baton Rouge? You know, like out of all places.
You were trying to place it, yeah.
And so that's why, and then also at the very first night of the performance, we invited all of the female directors and recognized them in front of the audience. And it was really lovely, even though it was a little bit smaller. But we still had great turnout in terms of like submissions, and then we were really lucky to be able to collaborate with this. It's called the Manship Theater in Baton Rouge. They invited ODC from San Francisco, and there was another company. On top of my head, cannot remember. From Chicago, also directed by female, and they tagged along their season to be with the conference. So the participants get to see many work from, like, we had an Italian company, we had many companies from New York, of course, you know, but then also get to see ODC, which is a really amazing company in San Francisco, also directed by women, a collective also. And then when I moved to New York, basically I, you know, collaborate with NYU, and now we're at Drexel.
Could you talk more about the process of what it's like to actually build this conference? I know that's something, we actually have a film festival that will be premiering in December, and it seems like such a big responsibility and just decide we want to do this. And I know that like at this conference, it's so exciting. I'm at a loss for words, but just to see what you've been able to create, like this space for connections with women who too want to share in this like communal space and empowering voices. So yeah, what are the steps I guess you took to create such a successful event?
Thank you.
Don't forget to say no to the box.
I basically thought of like, well, I did not want to just be a festival, simply because I was in academic. Well, I'm still in. I'm still in.
We're in your office.
Still in the office at Drexel University. Because I'm in academia, and because I know sometimes it's very difficult for young or junior faculty per se to get their work presented and then to get their work be discussed, and just. So I wanted to kind of go with that portion as well. And of course the whole like performance and then the professional part. So I wanted to do I don't want to say marriage, but like where, like you said, a community where the professionals and the academia can come together.
Yeah, it feels like this true intersection that I feel like is really hard to find in the dance world. From my own experience. And so I think that's what's so exhilarating is that we're able to like connect with experts from all different parts of the dance world. And I feel like you're doing such a wonderful job in providing equal platforms for all, which is just
right. And then that's why I wanted to make sure that's exactly how I felt. I felt like when I was a professional, I have no idea of what's going on in academia. So I was lost. I didn't know, I was like, how do I teach, And then once I stepped into academia, I feel like there's a slight disconnect. We're just on a different pace of moving. Right. So I just feel like, okay, how can I, from my personal experience, how do I bring these together? And so from the performance perspective, I know obviously we want to present live choreography. I know I want to present film because I've also done some film work. And I know I want to present panel discussions and paper. So then kind of balance both of them. I was very adamant about the soloist night because when I first brought it up, like some of the committee were like, "Are you sure you want?" Because they were thinking how bare the stage will be.
Oh my gosh, that night was
so the perfect start into this
amazing.
Yeah,
so I'm glad you.
Yeah, I was adamant about because I came from a ballet world, right? So it's like, oh, you need the guy to support you, and I was just like, no, I just find that so empowering when you see a single female body on stage, whether it's a contemporary work or what we had this time, more diverse in terms of the styles of dance. It's so, for me, that's the most empowering moment. So that I know in my head. And then I know I wanted to figure out a way to bring different companies in. I'm always, I tell my students the same thing. I said, you need to hear more voices. You can't just listen to, they're like, oh, what would you do? I don't care you shouldn't care what I would do. I think you just need to, listen. You need to talk to different people. And so that's why we wanted to do this whole submission process and bringing different people in.
What was it like to set that process up? Like the curators for the
so
the concerts.
Another thing that also I was very, because of where I've lived, I was just lucky. I kept contact and also my mentors around the areas where I've lived, many areas. And so I was also very clear with people who are helping. I said, I am not going to be the one who's curating the submission concerts because it's not fair. First of all, I don't believe in one single voice. Right. So why should I be the one to curate? So I basically, I hope I have not yet exhausted all my resources. Basically, I reach out to them and say, would you be interested on the selection committee, for example?
Do you reach out through email or?
Yeah, I reach out through emails and then we talk on the phone and then we kind of like set it up and then like making sure all they need to do is watch videos, and I give them plenty of time to watch. Because I mean, it's overwhelming.
Yeah,
like
it's
a lot of work.
Over
400 submissions. Yeah,
you know, and then like some film. I mean, like different lengths and papers. You know, it's so I make sure. That's why sometimes people are like, wait, why is your call so early? Because actually these selection committees, they are all volunteers.
Oh, that's my next question.
They're all volunteers. There is no way I'm gonna, you know, of course, then my next goal is to not ask them for their time again. You know, at least be able to compensate their time. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I set it up. And then I also want to make sure it's not coming from one location. So the way that works is we'll have like maybe 2 or 3, depends on how many we can find locally. Maybe, but then in different, maybe the paper and then the film and one in live choreography and one film. And then we find people from outside.
Different regions.
Like we had Eva Stone this time, for example, from Seattle. And then we have someone from Philadelphia. We have someone from New York. We have someone from the South.
And we can link all this too on the show notes because it's on your website.
Yeah, it's on the website. And so then it's different voices, right? So then that's why people came up to me last night. They're like, how can they be so different? And I was like, because we have different voices. You know, I am a full supporter of like different aesthetics. And I hope our students also see that.
Yeah, and it's such a privilege too, I'm sure, for the students at the universities where you've hosted these conferences to get to experience.
I had a question about what are some of the biggest challenges? Because like we see this beautiful
product
result, but I imagine that there's some like, what are like the tricky areas?
I think the biggest challenge what has been is financially.
Could you talk about what it's like?
Called do other extra work to get paid and then cover this, or just get some of the retirement out. But I'm not gonna stop. If you know, I was actually before this one, I was talking to my husband. I said, what if we lose money again? You know? And he's like, that's okay. We know this is going to go somewhere.
Sandra, it's so good to hear your honesty about this, just because for us, like selfishly, like starting No Box, it's just been, like all of our own resources and money. And I think that oftentimes these conversations don't happen. So we don't actually realize the truth behind it all, what actually is going on. And so I know that's something I'm very grateful for you being so transparent about. And I'm curious, what advice do you have, I guess, for anyone who might be interested in building their own event?
You are listening to Knobbox Dance.
Well, one, if you are not a very organized person, you should find someone who's extreme, almost to a point of OCD, like that organized, to help you. That's one. Or if you are, no matter what, you should have people help you. Whether it's advice or it's actual support. Like I'm just so grateful. Like, for example, Mina, our stage manager, extraordinary stage manager, like, people like that, like you need to have someone help you. And then don't be afraid of asking for help.
How do you ask for help?
How do you ask for help? I just ask. Because I think that you have to know the second best answer is always no. But if you don't ask, you never know what the result might be, right? At least if you know that if they say no, like, okay, thank you very much. And then you move on. You don't have this kind of a cloud behind.
Like, what if?
Exactly.
What could it be?
Like, when I moved back to New York, I reached out to Pam Pietro at Tisch because she came to the first conference. I reached out to her. I just asked for her advice, like where does she think would be a good place to host it? And she said, I am so glad you asked because I was going to suggest NYU. You know, and like, if I didn't ask, I probably just would do one and then I would never met you. This will never happen, you know? So I think it's important to just ask. And I think I forgot who said it, maybe overheard a little bit this couple of days, saying sometimes women tend to do it all. And we tend to think we can do everything. The fact is we can't. And we shouldn't pretend that we can, And I think it's this, I don't want to say burden, but this pressure that the society has placed upon us. Like, you have to be able to do everything. Like, I have to be a mom. I have to be able to clean, cook, and, what if I can't cook? Like, oh no, but
my less than because
exactly
of that,
the society kind of somehow like don't cook, so we have this pressure that we have to do everything. And you know what? I don't think, and it takes me a while to learn all this. And at first I was like, I'll be doing everything. Finally my husband's like, let me help you with the website. I'm like, oh. And people will ask like, let me help you with this. I'm like, oh, great, thank you. So I think that's the key.
Do you have trouble giving responsibility to others?
Not really. No, I think if I trust that person.
How do you define trust?
You kind of have to have faith in that then. Like, I'm not a religious person at all, but I think, I'm not going to give the task to someone who I don't know. Obviously you have worked together and then you understand how this person works. Like, I don't step into the tech rehearsal process, for example, because I trust Nina. I trust the crew is going to do their job, right? Because if I do that, I can't be doing anything else. So yeah, I think it's hard. It's hard. I understand why you asked that question, like how to trust somebody. And then, sometimes you learn from your mistake, right? And you can be like, oh, all right, next time I know. But then, and because basically for me, I'm going to take on like whatever didn't happen well. I have to be the one that says, this is my responsibility, right? But then if something goes really well, it's to praise these people and say, thank you for doing such a great job.
I was curious about your vision about what you want to see come from this. So you had this, you saw the problem, but what is the end game for you? Where do you want women in dance to be?
So ideally, I want women in dance to be a bridge, stepping stone, platform, however you want to call it, for female dance makers, whether it's choreography, paper, to showcase your work and have other people come and see, like presenters, for example, publishers, like people who can actually financially really propel the career of these dance makers. That's my biggest goal. So my next, I guess, motivation is to bring these presenters to the conference. Like this time I was really happy that, the Chop Chop Festival, like Eva's Films, she got to see all of the selected work. So then in her mind, she gets to see, so then your work gets to be seen by people who have even bigger stage than this conference, right? My next goal obviously will be ADF and, Jacob's Pillow and all those places, right? And then for publishers to come and hear the papers and panel discussions, to just kind of let them have this idea of like, oh, this is happening. I have not yet figured out how to invite film festivals to also come, but that will also be part of my...
Perhaps that's something we could collaborate on. We're really interested in touring internationally, our festival. Okay. So this is our first year doing fantastic. It, but it will tour in South Korea and Mexico. So maybe there's a collaboration there.
Yeah. And because I do... So have you gone to the film?
Yes, we've gone to a screening.
Okay. I do feel like, we have some really great work.
Oh, yes.
And I think that's the issue sometimes, like there's so many female independent makers. But there is so few spots, right?
Mhm.
And as we know, the problem is most of those spots are being occupied by men. So then how do we continue to kind of shift that little by little? And so that's my goal, is to really shift this to represent, because even 50-50 in my mind is not equal.
Well, there's more women than men.
Exactly. Equality is you look at the percentage of how many women are actually practicing compared to, right? That should
not
be,
even population wise.
Right.
Yeah.
That should be in my head. That's how.
Can you repeat that again? I think that's important for people to understand.
So like right now, when we think about equality, it's like half and half, right? Men 50, women 50. But in our world, men, I do not have the number for us, obviously, which I think that's when Liza come in, Dance Data Project.
Yes. We'll link that.
Yeah. I mean, it's if we only have 10% of the choreographers, working choreographers are men, then 90%, or maybe there's some like non-gender bias, right? So maybe say 10 and 80. Then shouldn't be every festival represent this number? Shouldn't every company's commission represent this number? Then then we are equal.
Yeah.
And of course, equal pay, right? Like the 68 cents to $1. That was 2016 or something like that. That Liza,
Yeah,
exactly. So like I'm like, for me, that's how to define equality.
So you're really, equity is your thing. So not only just like, here's some for you and you get the same amount of fries as they do, but it's like, okay, who's
doing the work and are they getting the reward?
Right.
Yeah.
For doing the work.
I'm a firm believer of that. And I don't know if I will see that in my lifetime. I hope I will, but I don't know. I'm going to keep on doing this and keep pushing it and see.
Don't forget to say no to the box.
And Sandra, just as recognizing you as a female leader yourself, just creating this space for all of us, I have a question. I'm curious, what advice do you have for those who are wanting to negotiate their place in the world as a female leader at any point in their life?
I think it's to believe in yourself. I think that actually, it's so easy to say, I believe in yourself. Have enough confidence.
What does that look like for you?
It's so hard. It is hard. Like, especially when you're in a environment where you see most of the time, most of the opportunities are not given to you. Perhaps not because you're gender, but because whatever reason might be, right? How do you tell yourself, like, what I am is enough?
How do you tell yourself that?
How do I tell myself? That's a good question. I think there were many times I questioned myself. I mean, I still do, but then I think it's have a support system, like maybe your family, maybe friends, like who will tell you that what you're doing is enough, what you're doing is meaningful, and then if you have that support system, but then also I don't mean that you should just always say, oh yeah, I'm good. No, that's not me at all. I am also always striving for something better, something
You're
more.
very humble too, I just have to note.
Oh, thank you.
From experiencing your
you.
interactions at this conference.
Yeah, and because for me, this conference, I'm here to serve. It's not about me. It's about the women who are here. It's about the work you are presenting. I'm just like, I always feel so slightly embarrassed, how I walk on stage and do the curtain speech. And when I introduce myself and everybody claps, I was like, well, thank you. I didn't, in my head, I'm like, I didn't really do much.
Oh,
you created this space for us.
Yeah. Well, I understand. I understand why people are clapping, and I'm really grateful for that. And I think those moments are kind of validating my own kind of confidence and self-confidence and say, okay, Sandra, you're doing something right.
I think that servant mindset helps make you a better leader too.
Yeah,
so
servant
the fact
leader.
that's your default to be like, I'm here to serve,
Right.
rather than like, oh, I'm here to lead.
Right. I agree.
It like makes you just inherently, it just feels so natural, and that's why I feel like
And connected. to the community aspect from the beginning we talked about.
I absolutely agree with what you just said. I don't think a leader is here to lead. A leader meaning you are serving, you are empowering people to get to where they need to be. Right now, for example, I'm also the program director here at Drexel University. I'm going to tell the faculty and say, what do you need from me to make your job successful? That's what I believe what I should do. Now, would I be able to get all of that? Well, we'll see. That's always, harder because you also have people above you and all that. But I am a firm believer of that. That's for sure.
Sandra, could you share 3 practical tips or habits that you practice routinely with our audience that help keep you inspired or motivated?
Do you mean just anything?
Anything from a reading practice to going on a walk to family time. I mean, anything. Just tangible tips or habits that you do that perhaps others could try out for themselves to stay creative.
To stay creative?
Yeah, to inspire that creativity. You go see work, for sure. Different work. It doesn't have to be dance. Any artwork, I think. Art show, movies, films, and, all of it. And that's one thing for sure. And the second one, I don't think it's keeping you inspired. I think it's keeping you not go down to the rabbit hole of destruction. This is completely just doom. Yeah. Like the end of the world. Is sometimes you just have to walk away. I tell myself that because sometimes when I'm even organizing this, some days I will just not gonna touch anything about women dance because it helps my brain just kind of go somewhere else. I'll be like, let's go watch some really silly movie like that I usually don't watch. It just complete change your mindset, and then you're like, oh, wait, why didn't I think of that? It really helped me, and I also tell my students that because I feel like, especially when we're creating, we get to a very emotional, sometimes so deep on our skin that it's hard to come out of it, And by doing something that's completely irrelevant, because I don't know any other. I don't play any sport. No, but I mean, this is it. Dance is it. There's nothing. And there's so many of us like that too.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not like I can say, I'm just going to go out and play basketball. I'm like, I don't even know how to dribble the ball. And so, it's hard, so I think that's the second one. And then the third one is to journal or to whatever self-reflection of some sort. Whether you journal, whether you talk to yourself and something that self-reflection is very important. And I will say these things.
Thank you.
Flash forward.
So as we wrap up, we have something called a flash forward portion where you answer 4 questions in a flash.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready. Okay.
Okay, number 1. If you had to recommend a resource to our audience, what would it be?
Resource of...
So book, podcast, website.
TED Talk.
Question number 2. What was the first dance you saw?
Swan Lake.
And number 3. Do you think social media has a positive or negative influence on you?
Both.
Last, number 4. What is your favorite social media platform?
Ooh. Right now it's Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Sandra. And we should say also she has been able to coordinate all the other interviews with other people participating in this wonderful leadership conference. And your efforts do not go unnoticed. I feel like this was just a synchronicity moment when we applied and were selected and were able to connect with you. So just thank you from everybody who's been able to attend this conference.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to see your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yay.
Thanks for taking your time to tune into Dance Behind the Screen, a bi-monthly interview series where we go behind the screen to question process, product, and social media. Be sure to follow us on social media at KNOW Box Dance. See you next time and don't forget to say no to the box.